since October.
Welcome to 2020 TV. I'm Emma Perez. 2020 TV is a partnership between the Brownsville Herald and the University of Texas at Brownsville in Texas Southmost College. Today, we are very pleased to welcome Mrs. Gail Hansen. Mrs. Hansen has been ministering to women in jail in Cameron County Jail since October of 2000. And our visit comes also on the special findings that were made by the Texas Jail Project. The Texas Jail Project is a grassroots organization based in Austin of women that are very concerned about the conditions of women in jail. Who better today to speak to that issue than Mrs. Hansen? Mrs. Hansen, welcome to our program today.
Women that are very concerned about the conditions of
your
women in
near
jail.
7-year visit to the Cameron County Jail. What concerns you the most about that?
Welcome to our program today.
Well, if it's all right to give a little disclaimer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
First of all, my
visit to
motivation
the
is not at all
Cameron County Jail.
political. I
What
am not
concerns you the most about that?
in favor of or against any elected officer or administrator. My obsession is just the women, and I really have grown to be close and love a lot of them and want to see them treated humanely. So the reason I go to the jail is just as a Christian, I want to share God's love with them. So I'd just like to say that first of all, and also I'm one of many chaplains. There are other people who go. There's a full-time chaplain, Drew Vale, and he also not only goes to the women's jails, the men's jails, and he's really probably the best authority from an outside perspective. But my concern is how often the women are held for months and then 2 years. And the misconception that the women in Cameron County Jail have been found guilty already. And I know there's a lot of attitude of, well, if they did the crime, they should do the time. And in many cases, the women did not do the crime. And when they go to trial, they'll be found innocent. So my concern is the length of time they are held, whatever the bottleneck is, in getting the process. And also just issues of treatment, just issues of kindness, making their stay there endurable, whatever the bottleneck is, in getting humanitarian, and also just issues.
In fact, the Texas Jail Project, what they found is that the treatment of women in the Cameron County Jail were among the worst in the state.
Yes, I read that.
I do have to preface as well that we did invite Cameron County Sheriff officials to please join us today. They did not respond. We also invited Pastor Drew Vale, who, as you say, also has visited the jail for almost 10 years, if not more. He was not able to make it, but I did have an interview with him, and I'll be sharing his thoughts as this interview progresses. We do know that the Texas Commission on Jail Standards, they monitor the jail, but only to a degree. There are other policies and rules that are beyond their scope, and those are the issues that we'll be talking about today. For example, at the present, the women are being held at the old Cameron County Jail, which Jail Administrator Michael Leonard describes as a maximum security jail, the most maximum of jails in Cameron County. What does that mean?
Well, for the women, it means that they are kept in the third floor in very small cells. The conditions are usually very crowded. For me personally, for years I was taking groups of students in to pray with the women, and that isn't allowed in maximum security, so they have less access, I think, to visiting. And my impression is that although there is some kind of a court where the men play basketball, I hear the basketball bouncing.
Yes, there is.
Because they share it, it seems like the women are not getting much time outside. There's one of the ladies I talked to yesterday who told me the story of it having been 2 years since she had seen stars. You know, she's just been inside, so there aren't any windows outside, so it's a lot harsher. When the jail was at DC2, I used to go there also, and you could see out some windows, and It was just a lot airier and more spacious.
And for those who may not know, DC2 is detention center number 2, which is about a block away, about a block and a half away from the old Cameron County Jail.
It was just a lot area.
DC2 is now housing men.
DC2 is
Right,
detention
federal
center number 2.
DC1 is the federal prisoners, which is also adjacent to detention center number 2. But it's my understanding that DC2, where the women were up until last year, also had a library, has a library,
Yes.
and a large recreation room, where they also used to sew. That is not happening at the old Cameron County Jail.
No, when I go in, they are watching TV and coloring mostly. And I would say, I used to go from about 2 to 4 in the afternoon. And mostly, maybe 50% of the women are rolled up in blankets on their beds.
Or watching Jerry Springer.
Yeah, I just happen to come on the worst time. It's like the most endurable afternoon shows are the ones that are during my slot. So,
You know, and I was speaking with Mike Leonard, who's the jail administrator again, and he clearly said that if he had it, if he could do something about it right now, he would move them back to
Right.
DC.
I'm sure that's
At the old county jail, they don't see daylight.
And he clearly said
They
that
don't
if he
see
had it,
sunlight.
if he could
They don't have a library.
right now,
Although it's our
he would
understanding
move
that
them
within the
back
past
to
2 days,
I'm sure that.
right.
there
Yesterday there
have
was
been some
Yeah,
changes.
yesterday. For the first time,
They don't
actually,
see sunlight.
I have brought in
They
probably
don't have
in
a
8
library.
years.
Although it's our
I would get 300 or
understanding
400
that within the
books.
past 2
And
days,
this is the first time I've seen some sort of a tray of books that look like they could be borrowed.
for the first time,
Usually, I give them directly to the prisoners,
probably in
and
8 years,
eventually they
I
are
would
passed
get
around
300 or
and
400 books.
confiscated. So
And this was the
this was the first time I saw books
seen
available to
some
borrow.
that looked like
What do they color when they do
I
color?
give them directly
It
to
looks
the
like it's
prisoners,
usually
eventually they
like
have
men's
passed around
handkerchips. They're pieces of
confiscated.
cloth.
This was the
And they
first time I
usually
saw
are
books
doing
available
flowers
to
or
What do they color? When they
comic
do color?
And
characters.
it's my understanding that they're called baños. And in fact, they're not allowing that at DC2 anymore, because I understand that what the inmates were doing is that they were getting the mattresses and getting the canvas-like covering underneath the mattresses,
They're not allowing that
and cutting them up, you know, to color those baños. And I just learned about 2 days ago that came to a stop. Another concern is that at DC2,
and cutting them up,
or at some
you know,
point,
to color those
they
baños.
used to be provided with instruction.
I just learned
Teachers
about
would
2
come
days
and
ago
provide the
that
GED
came to a
classes
stop.
and
Another
parenting
concern
classes.
is that at
What
DC2,
happened to that?
Or at some
I
point,
remember one of the guards
They used to
telling
be
me that they had had
provided
a
with
couple classes,
teachers
I
would
think
come
on
and
anger
provide the
management.
GED classes.
But I had
and
brought
parenting
cases of
classes.
books over twice
happened
from
to
the
that?
GED program
I
and
remember
talked
one
to
of the
the
guards telling
woman
me
who's
that
in
they had
charge
a couple
about volunteer
classes,
teachers,
I
and she was
think,
very
on
open to
anger
it.
management.
And to my knowledge,
I had brought
I never heard of a
cases
class
books over
given.
twice from the
It might have been
program,
1 month when I
and
was out
talked
of
to
town in the summer,
woman who's
but
in charge
I have never
about
heard of it and never
volunteer
seen any
teachers,
evidence
she was very
and
open
never
to it.
seen one of the
And
books
to
I
my
brought
knowledge,
in
I
any
never heard
cell.
of a class given.
So I need to
No, it
also
might have
say,
been
like,
1 month
there are
when I was
4
out of
rows
town
of
in the
cells
summer,
on the
but
top floor.
I
On
had
the
never
third
heard
floor.
On the
and
third
that's-
floor,
and
right.
that's the one that,
Never seen
Right,
one of
and
the
I,
issue right
I
now.
always go to the
in
last
any cell.
two because I know so many women
I
there.
need to also
And I
say,
usually have a
like,
limited
there are 4
time,
rows
so
of cells
if I'm
on the
going to
top
talk
floor.
or pray with
On the third
5
floor,
of
and
these
that's the
women,
one that.
I don't want to
And
spend
I
myself
always
in.
go to the
I would like to get to
last
go to
two,
both,
because I know
but
so
I
many
have developed
women there,
friendships
and
with
I
enough of
usually
the
have a
women that I
limited time.
have
So
been praying
if
with
I'm
some
going
of
to
them,
talk or pray
like
with
in this one woman's
5,
case,
6 women,
2 years.
I don't want to
But I
spend
always
myself
put them
in.
first. There's been a couple
like to
times
get
I've been
to
asked to
those,
go
but
and
I
talk
have
to
developed
someone
friendships
who
with
was
enough of the
depressed
women
or
that
worried
I
about a child or
have been
something.
praying with some
But
of them.
usually I'm
like
just in
in
the
this one
N2
woman's
cell.
case, 2 years.
now, I was
really
talking
taken
to
care of. There's been a
Pastor
couple
Vale,
times I've been
who also
asked
has
to go
been
and talk to
visiting
someone
jail
who's
for
depressed or worried about a child or something.
10 years or
But
so.
usually I'm just
And he said that I could feel free to refer to his newsletter, which is in Christ Ministry. And he said, he writes, I would like to thank our Sheriff Omar Lucio for the dramatic changes that he has seen in the past 4 years. He further writes, we now have a drug-free jail thanks to the Sheriff's zero tolerance policy. Corruption is almost non-existent, and violence has dropped dramatically.
We now have a drug-free jail.
So there have been changes since Sheriff Lucio
I'm sure.
took office.
Yes, I'm sure.
What changes have you seen?
And violence
Like this?
dropped
On the positive
dramatically.
The things that Pastor Drew
so
is
there have
talking
been
about,
changes.
probably
Sheriff
he's more
Lucille,
aware than the men's facilities,
his office.
because visiting the women, I had never seen drugs. And I've seen a couple women who've been in little scuffles and had like a black eye or something, but I'm not as aware of it. I think the caliber of guards has improved. There were some guards 7, 8 years ago that I thought were kind of scary, and the women who work up there now I'm not very impressed with. So I have seen some improvement too. And, you know, I'm not at all wanting to criticize the elected officials or the jail administrators. But there are still situations where women are treated worse than we would treat elected officials. I mean, there are cases where, you know, there are supplies that they should have that they run out of,
And we're talking about personal
personal hygiene things.
Personal hygiene.
There have been women who told me that they didn't get a towel for days and were drying with socks. They're just little things. It's really the little things that are so demoralizing, though, because the shock of being locked up, especially in the third floor jail, is pretty overwhelming to begin with. And then those things just add on to it.
I was speaking to a jail official just 2 days ago, and he was showing me how they order the personal hygiene items, and I'm talking from toilet paper to napkins. And he quipped, how do I know when they have their cycle? They should ask for the items. So I don't know whether it's the approach or whether it's really or not very sensitive to women issues. Do we know how the men are being treated? What are the men offered that the women don't have? Well, we do know that they can see the data.
Right.
And they can see the
I think they have better access to the exercise opportunities.
What are the men offered that the women?
And they have libraries.
Right, and they have access to books.
And also at DC, too, I believe.
Yeah, I really don't know. I used to take students into little services to the men's facilities, but they have discontinued letting minors go in anymore. So it's been probably 3 years since I've been in the men's jail. So I really don't know. I hope it's better.
Another concern is that while the women are at the old county jail, when they are processed out of jail, they are taken to the Carrizales Center near Olmito. Tell us what the problem with that is.
Okay. You know, everything I'm telling you is just what women have told me, but in early December, I picked up a lady, her name was Deanne, and I had never prayed with her or talked to her, but as I left the jail that day, one of my friends, one of the prisoners said, Deanne is going to be released today, but she has no way to get out of the jail area in Olmito. So I just gave her my phone number. I think she wrote it on her hand. And so around 6 o'clock, she called me, and I drove up there, and this was a case where she had some supplies when she'd been arrested, and they were put in a sack, as they are, and put in a special storage room. But the storage room is locked at 5:30, and this was about 6:15 when she called me. And I don't know what this woman had done. She was in jail 22 days, and her husband and she are both bipolar, and they were both on medication. And she said something had happened. I don't know if it's some reckless behavior or some kind of misdemeanor for that short sentence. So while she was in jail, she heard that her husband had attempted suicide and been taken to the hospital in Harlingen, but she had no way to find out. So she was released, and they didn't give her supplies. So here she is out on this country road. It's dark in December by 6:15 when I got there. She didn't have a sweater, she didn't have a purse, she didn't have her ID, she didn't have a penny. You know, so, I mean, I was real glad to take her to the bus station, give her a little money, and wait till her father could, Western Union her some money for a ticket. But, yeah, but what if I hadn't been able to be there? There's a striped corner gas station and store, maybe 2 miles or so, but it was cold, and she didn't have money for a phone, and anyone to call anyhow. So you might say, well, that's just a little thing, you know, but I don't think she deserved that. Whatever she did, she didn't hurt somebody. But it was cold, you know? And here she is put in that situation. So those are the things we can improve.
I was talking with Mr. Leonard last week, on Friday, And he pointed out that, I asked him about this procedure and how unsafe it is for women and men, to be let out at night and have to walk. And he recalled the fact that a woman was killed last year. And it was, by a motorist, I believe. Was struck by a motorist and she died. And she had just been released from the detention center. And he said that when they were first constructing the jail, they thought about this. And she died. And they had been looking into possibly requesting that a bus route be included, to the facility, but it's something that is not been worked out. So what would you like to see happen? If you could do something today, what would that be?
To the facility, but it's something that
That's
has
a good
not
question.
been worked out.
I believe that there are lots of people in our community who really have a heart of compassion for women in jail, who realize that a lot of them just need a helping hand. And I think there are churches all over this town that would have 3, 4, 5 volunteers who would be on standby to give a ride or to donate some toilet paper. I think we could have a grassroots support system.
You also have told me that you're not a proponent of fancy facilities.
No.
Talk to me about that.
I think people misinterpret
You also told me that you're not a proponent.
compassion for these prisoners who thinking crime should not be punished.
Talk to me about that.
And I'm not like that. There are people I think need to be in jail and stay in jail. I'm not one of these people
Compassion for these prisoners who thinking crime
not
should
hold
not be punished.
criminals
And
accountable.
I'm not like that.
But,
there are people I think.
I always
need
tell
to
the
be in
women,
jail and
one of the
stay in
things
jail.
Jesus said was
I'm
that
not
he came
one
to
of those
open prison
people
doors.
who
And the most important prison doors are the ones in their
not
heart.
hold
Issues
criminals
of
accountable.
unforgiveness and anger
But,
and some of
I always
the
tell the
pain they've
women, one of the
experienced.
things
But that
Jesus
his
said
will
was
for
that he
them
came to
is to
open prison
live
doors.
valuable
And the most
lives,
important prison
to
doors
be
are the
out
ones
of
in their
there
heart.
and be productive
Issues of
citizens,
unforgiveness,
taxpayers and
anger,
good mothers and,
some of the pain
career
they experience.
people.
But
So,
that his will for them
I
is
don't
to
want
live
someone to escape
valuable
just
lives,
punishment.
to be out of there.
My
and be
goal is
productive
just to
citizens,
see
taxpayers,
the
and good
emphasis
mothers,
putting
and,
on helping
you
these
know,
people
career people.
be restored and
I
live
don't want
lives
someone to
outside of
escape
prison.
just
So there's something wrong in our country
My
that we have more
goal is
people in
just
prison than
to
any country in the world.
the emphasis
And
putting on
statistics
helping
like the
people
fact that
be restored
more
and
black
live
men,
lives
African American men, are
So
in
there's something
jail
wrong
in this
in our country that we have more people
than
in prison
in
than any
colleges
country in the
and
world.
universities.
And
Stuff
statistics
like that
like
just
the fact that
cuts me to pieces.
more
It's not right.
black men,
We're doing
African
something wrong as
American
a
men
country,
are
not
in
just as a
jail in
county,
this
but as a
country
country.
than in colleges
Well,
and
perhaps
universities. Stuff like that
one of
just
the immediate
cuts me to
solutions
pieces. It's not
is for all
right.
of us
We're doing
to
something
look
wrong
deep
as a
down and
country,
see
not just as a county,
the
but as a
changes
country.
that we ourselves can make.
Well, perhaps,
Yeah, that's
one of
really,
the immediate
my main
solutions
thinking is
is
there's
for
a
all
few
of us
things
to
everyone can do.
look deep
Like
down
at our
and
school, we
see
go to the
the
Matamorskam once a
changes
month and
that
take
we
food.
ourselves can
And
make.
then I go to the jail once a week.
Yeah, that's
And those are just
really,
little things.
my
But
main
if
thinking
everyone in
is there's a
Brownsville
few
said,
things
God,
everyone
give
can
me
do.
a little
Like
thing
at
I
our
can do to
school, we
make
go to the
my world
Matamorskam
better.
once a month
Make a
and
huge
take food.
difference.
And then I go to the
Mrs.
jail once a
Hanson,
week.
thank you so much
And
for
those are just
joining us
little
today.
But
And we hope to have you
everyone
back.
said,
Perhaps
God,
we
give
might
me
learn
a
of
little thing to do to
changes
make
in the
my
system.
world better.
Perhaps
Make a
not,
huge difference.
but we will continue to
Mrs.
monitor that
Hanson,
as
thank
well.
you so much
I
for joining us
appreciate
today.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we hope to have you
As
back.
for Brownsville
Perhaps
2020
we might learn
and
of
2020 TV, thank you very much.
Perhaps not, but we will continue to monitor that as well.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As for Brownsville 2020 and 2020 TV, thank you very much.